I've never met anybody that said their CRM was really clean. We have an agreement with ZoomInfo. We were 50-60% accuracy level at best. The sales reps are less tolerant of that, right? They want it clean and they want to just be able to hit the road and go. And it took 7-8 months for us to work through maybe 75,000 accounts, I think is what we got through. You understood the pain point and what we were trying to solve very quickly. And it was like, oh yeah, we can do this, 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 and this. When I tell the team of how quickly it just could turn around, it's mind-boggling. I highly recommend going this route because there's just so much value you get out of it and you can get it very quickly. I'm the VP of Demand Gen for ConnectWise. It's a global demand gen. Have a team here in North America as well as internationally. We're a leading provider of software and services for MSPs, IT service providers in the IT market. Really kind of how we frame things up is we are the preferred platform to run, grow, and transform your MSP. And so for MSPs specifically, they're going to use our software and our services to run their business on everything they're trying to do. They're going to grow their business through our cybersecurity and our data protection, and then transform through our IT Nation community and SLI benchmarking. I think the biggest challenge that I think we have just in our space specifically, I would say all CRMs have a duplicate challenge and a data quality challenge. I've never met anybody that said their CRM was really clean, their Salesforce instance was clean or whatever, right? And we certainly had that. We put a lot of effort in the deduplication work and have made a lot of strides in that before introducing here. I think our biggest challenge and why we turned to Sculpted and Clay was, one, it's a lot of SMB, that specific space, and there's no Nexus or SIC code. So there's no just clear delineation that says this is an MSP and this isn't. It's not like, an automotive industry category that ZoomInfo or DMB or anybody else has. You can't just go and look and find that it's an MSP. You almost have to go to the LinkedIn profile or the website and see, does this provide IT services, managed services? Is that a part of their offering? Versus there's a lot of nuance, right? It's kind of all just mixes together in what they offer. So what our challenge was differentiating of all of the prospect accounts in our CRM, 200,000 accounts, what is truly an MSP that is still relevant, still active, and is in our ICP and in our target market that we want to go after, versus what is more of a broader, what we call a broader TSP. They provide technology services, but not in a managed way. And so it's not that they're not a good fit, but they're not as good of a fit versus kind of they're way outside of our ICP. And it's just not something that we've been able to find in any other platform. And so we turned to Clay and Sculpted to help us define that, use a multi-touch approach to how we would enrich and model out the scoring mechanism to try to prioritize accounts. So we did two major projects to try to do this. One was ZoomInfo. So we have an agreement with ZoomInfo. They do a good job of identifying the contacts and giving us kind of a high level view of account data and then the contact data, trying to find different prospects that we can go after. We turned to them first to see if they could do a better job of just, one, telling us, is this a real account or not? Do they still exist? Is their website active? Are they in the location that it says they are? And can you give us some mechanism that says they are truly an MSP or not within our ICP? Results were mixed. The larger companies, the non-SMB, like, if they're above 20 employees, they did an okay job. They could at least tell us if they existed or not. The small guys, the under 5, under 10 employees, the coverage was much less. And we were 50-60% accuracy level at best. So then what we did secondly is we used an offshore team to manually validate. And so we had a team in the Philippines that would go through massive amounts of accounts and just, hey, is the website real? Do they already exist in our CRM? And it wasn't a duplicate. Yeah, I realize there's tons of platforms. We have all those platforms. I can tell you if it's a duplicate or not. I can tell you that there's nuance there. And if the data is not all tied together, you'll still miss it. So we were having them manually validate. And then really they were going to the website. If it exists, can you tell us if it's an MSP or not? And we were 70-ish, maybe 60 to 70 max percent accuracy, even after having manual validation. It just wasn't good enough. And if we're giving it to the SDR team, the SDR team is used to that kind of evaluation. And they have to they're used to going in and investigating and determining if it's qualified or not. The sales reps are less tolerant of that, right? They want it clean and they want to just be able to hit the road and go. And to be fair, I mean, it justifies having a clean list because their skill set, their level of status should be that they can grab and have the most success by calling into real accounts versus doing a bunch of admin work. So we were trying to get to 90% accuracy. And so that's when we turned to this. We tried lots of different methods that just didn't get us to the accuracy level that I was comfortable with. And we would try many ways of testing that accuracy level. I would manually go through and a sampling of 50 accounts after it would return and do it. And I would just like, nope, that's wrong. Nope, that's wrong. Nope, that's wrong. And get to that, like 6 out of 10 is not good enough. Like if we're going to manually validate these, it should be 10 out of 10 really, because we're literally manually validating these. And so we just never got to the point where I felt comfortable that it was at the quality we needed it to be. There's a combination of things. One was the number of connectors that we could tie into and tap into of just all these different sources of enrichment and the number of use cases that we could tie. Like, we started with one use case. Let's identify accounts that are in our ICP and get their is an MSP or not, kind of the categorization, as well as their size, and feel fairly accurate in their size and location. Time. It took 7-8 months for us to work through maybe 75,000 accounts, I think is what we got through. And so, you're talking a huge investment in time when we got to generate pipeline now. It's not like we can wait. And so that just like turnaround time, like, hey, here's 10,000 accounts, go through these. All right, a month later, I get 10,000 accounts back. Let me check the accuracy. It's not as accurate. Do it again. I need to look for these things. It was a lot of back and forth. It took a lot of time. We never got through the whole thing, and it just took a really long time versus our method where once we got the model built, it was kind of amazing. I'm still, when I tell the team of how quickly it just could turn around, it's mind boggling. Like, wait, could we have done this before? Did we have to spend 8 months of our time in our lives of doing this to, that we could have just done in a few days or whatever? I think that's a big piece of it too. If you can't deliver the email, then it doesn't matter how great your writing is and how great everything you did. They don't see it, so it doesn't matter. So I think that was one. The second, I think, that drove it too was we have a team. We have a team of sales reps and a team of SDRs who only are doing outbound, and they're waiting for us to deliver to them, right? Not that they're not doing their own research and their own prospecting, but I mean, they're highly dependent on us to deliver this output to them so that they can be successful in creating enough pipeline to hit our quota. And so having a team that is relying on that, if I didn't have anybody, I was starting from scratch, and the approach was either hire 20 people or build an outbound motion. Maybe the decision's a little different. Maybe we try it a little differently, but I already had the 39 people in the SDR seats waiting for these accounts, right? And so by having so many people that were affected and were needing this, it was a fairly easy decision from that perspective. Because even if I wanted to start an outbound motion separate from what they were doing, they still need things. I could give them enough accounts to keep them busy and take another segment and do an outbound motion that way. Sure, that would be an option, and maybe that's something we look at down the line. But really, they were the higher priority thing that I had to solve. They're very loud too. It'll come back to bite me if I don't solve for that. I think if you're struggling with your data quality, right, and I think most people would say they are, you can try to take it on in-house, and I can tell you we did. And it was hard. It's not an easy project to take on. Even if you have a lot of resources and really skilled people, there's just other priorities that get in the way. And so if you don't have a dedicated function that is just focused on list building and account segmentation and really diving into your ICP, good luck, because it's going to be hard to do. We just didn't have the bandwidth to take on something. I knew if we tried to bring it in-house and do it on our own, one, it takes forever to get through our procurement process. Two, it takes forever to connect to our CRM, get on the Salesforce admin team and go through that system side of things. Three, I don't know how long it would take me to train somebody or hire somebody to actually do the work. If I want to add 6 to 8 months to my project time, sure, I could do that. And maybe it would have saved us, I don't know, $1,000, probably not, but it certainly would have been a lot longer to get there. And ultimately, I think it was the fastest path to value with someone that fully understood the pain that we were going through and how to solve it. We quickly evaluated or kind of honed in on what you could solve, what the pain was, how we're going to do it. And I think really it was just scoping the project. What all did we want to enrich? How were we going to enrich it, right? What tools and what hooks were you going to tie into from a Clay perspective? And then how many records were going to be underway? And then how were we going to build the model, right? What was a good account versus a not a good account? Or how are we going to create those different segments or different categorizations? The process of that was really interesting. It taught me a lot of just like how we can be descriptive in the model and say what we're looking for to describe category 1 versus category 2 and how you would scrape a website or a LinkedIn profile and try to understand that. So I think that was a big part of it, scoping out the records and the project. Then it was a lot of testing. I appreciated how we would get some samples and we would go through and see, oh, looks like we need to tweak the model a little bit because it wasn't quite the accuracy level we would want. So we'd go back and forth, and we really improved the accuracy rate of the end product because of how many different iterations we went through. And just quick iteration 1, let's find some quick learnings. Okay, now let's update the model, get iteration 2, oh, we're much closer, iteration 3, and then we got really close to where we needed to be. And so we did that on the account side, finished that, then got that on the contact side for the contact enrichment. Very similar process. I think it accelerated a little bit on the contact side because we learned what we needed on the account side. I mean, it was, once the model was solid, it was like, hey, here's 100 records, go through and validate this. And we're like, hey, this is really good. I'm really impressed. And I sent it to our team, our SDR managers, and said, hey guys, poke holes in this. Like, I don't want to be, skewed on this and try to, because this is a project I'm working on that, I'm going to say it's perfect. Tell me it's wrong. Like, poke holes in this process. And they went through and they're like, no, this is solid. This is good. If we can get these types of records, we're going to be in really good shape. It was like, all right, turn the switch and get it all. And, I think you would come back with different recommendations through the project of like, hey, here's what I'm seeing before I burn all these credits. Is this right? And I think you did a good job of kind of making sure that we were really accurate and used our credits wisely so that it didn't get out of control from a cost perspective. That I could see how we could easily just burn through a lot of money and get the results that we weren't looking for. So I think that if we were doing it on our own, I don't think we would have been able to do that. I think we probably would burn through a lot of credits. I'm sure people that do it on their own all the time are like just cruising through their credits and spending a ton of money that they don't need to, because they didn't have it tweaked all the way and they maybe moving too fast or too large data sets before they got the model built. I just went on Clay and I looked for who are the agencies the Clay agencies that can help, and I found like 3 or 4 that were kind of highly rated or recommended for something similar. So I reached out to all, I don't know, I think it was 3 of them, and you were one of them. And so it was more like who could help us with the project. What sold me on choosing Sculpted versus any of the other options? I think there were a few things. One, I think you understood the pain point and what we were trying to solve very quickly. It took me a minute of explaining the problem, and it was like, oh yeah, we can do this, and this. It was just a clear understanding of the pain that I was going through and how you could solve it. And I think the others that we were talking to were just like, wait, so what are you trying to solve? Like, it was as if I was speaking a foreign language at times, where I felt like you just fully understood exactly what we're trying to do. The value that you provided versus the cost of it was hugely beneficial, and it was something that I could definitely fit in within my budget of what I'm trying to achieve. So it wasn't like, yeah, here's a $500,000 project, go ahead. Like, I had no idea what to expect, and so when you came back with and I don't know if you want me to talk about cost on this, but like, it was valuable. Like, I think the benefit and the value that we get out of the spend is hugely beneficial for us. And we started there, and then as we started to dive in with you and with the Clay side, is like, oh, we can also pull in contact data, and we can also do validation on email and mobile numbers, and like, just there's all these extra things that we could do. And when we bring up a use case like, hey, we also want to check for this, you're like, oh yeah, we could tie into this, they've got this other connector that you can tie into. So I think that just kind of sealed the deal. That was one. The second is, we were evaluating other things. All the other things were like, they were AI that were kind of deep research AI, but most of them were, pick 1,000 accounts. And it was really expensive to do deep research on 1,000 accounts. And then they would build outbound sequences and automate an outbound motion for you based on that deep research, things like that. And I didn't know which 1,000 accounts we would even give them, for one. So how much money we were going to spend. It was really costly. And so the idea of doing this to 200,000 accounts, like, there was no way. And they even told us when we would evaluate some of the other tools, they're like, listen, the use case you're trying to solve is not what we offer. Like, we offer, you give us, 500, 1,000 accounts, and we'll build, kind of a deeper research and help automate some of that research side of things. But we're not going to scan through your hundreds of thousands of accounts and tell you which ones to focus on and which not. So I think just the use case and the speed and the number of connectors and use cases we could solve were kind of the 3 things that drove us there. It solved a specific pain point that we did not have, that we really couldn't find anywhere else to solve. The other things that we tried, and we tried a lot, just didn't quite hit the mark. I think you guys have done, from a sculpted perspective, you understood our pain and you moved really quickly. And I like that we could come to you and give you a project and you go run off and bring it back. And it's such a different thing because you don't have, a board report that's due this week and the next day the CRO needs a new report built and that's going to take you a week and you get sidetracked, which is exactly what happens to us when we have requests that come internally. So I think just the speed at which we can move, and highly recommend going this route because there's just so much value you get out of it and you can get it very quickly. I put them in a few different phases. So phase one was the 200,000 accounts and really honing in on our core market, our MSP market. And so we've got that done. So it's the account and the contact enrichment. And so having kind of these tier one, tier two, tier three accounts. Tier one is the focus and how we're going to assign those out. So we've already started assigning those out to the reps and the SDR team so they can start their outbound motions. So that project is done and it's underway. They're leveraging that data, and we'll see over the next 6 months how successful we are and really kind of penetrating in those accounts and contacts and how successful we are on that front. So we have kind of two arms to our business, right? We have our MSP market, but then we have the broader IT market, more kind of the mid-market enterprise. And as we try to go up market on that front, it's understanding that segment. And it's a completely different segment than the first project we did. So we're going to concentrate on that segment, building a very similar model, similar process, just on core segments when it comes to that side. So it's almost like phase two is a shift into what we're looking for in the model that we're going to build. In phase three, so I mentioned we have 200,000 accounts. We're talking Salesforce, so account, contact, lead objects. That's the account object. We got 200,000 leads that are not converted, that are just sit in the lead database, and a decent portion of those are free mail, email addresses, probably not good, just haven't been cleaned up. But there's gold in them hills, as we like to say, right? And so I don't know which one is gold and which one isn't, and none of our reps certainly do. So trying to build a model that could scrape through those and find leads that are not accounts in our system that we could convert over and find some new. I think that's kind of the phase three approach that we're going to take, clean up that lead side. And then phase four that we probably haven't even talked about that I am really interested in is like that these are just accounts in our database, what we already know about. What about the stuff that's out there that we don't even know about, that have never hit our website, have never come into our accounts for whatever reason? We're confident in that model of identifying our ICP. Is there a world in which we can start to identify net new? And whether that's using other list services that can identify things that we don't know about and run it through the model and feel better about the validity and the account fit for those, tying it to our inbound records and maybe doing some real-time enrichment, which we use, some tools today, hit or miss on the accuracy level. That I think there's promise there that we could probably fit into. So I'm happy with forecasting out the results and what we could do. And I think there's a lot of promise for where we go.